Good afternoon, Rotarians, friends, and guests. I am Becky Fields, and I am the proud president of one of the largest Rotary clubs in the world. And I wanted you to give a special thanks to Tom Wolf today. He always graces us with beautiful music every week. Thanks so much, Tom. We appreciate you. Let's begin our program today with invocation from Sarah Fry, song and pledge from John Croissant, visitor introductions from Luann Buehlinger, and new member introduction from Carl Vincent.
Please pray with me. Dear God, thank you for this fellowship as we gather as Rotarians in service to our community and to one another. The world sometimes reminds us of our mortality, whether with the passing of a seemingly immortal sports legend or looked at differently, just a dad and his daughter. Today we ask you to speak into the hearts of all of us here today and remind us of the precious gift of each moment. Help us to remember that this earth is not our home. Today is the day. Help each of us set our priorities with this in mind. Bless this food that it may nourish our bodies, and bless the hands that made it. We offer you thanks and praise now and always. And all God's people said, amen.
All right, Tom will lead us in the national anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. Now's the time when we introduce our guests, so when you and your host Rotarian hear your names, please stand up for a few moments and let us get a good look at you. And then we'll introduce our visiting Rotarians with a big Hi Rotarian. First of all, Roger Ramsire has Terry Ramsire and Wade Wellborn. Welcome. Jessica Carney has brought Sarah Massey. We have Justin Cosby, who has no host, so go for it. Oh, okay, there you go. Brady Wynn has brought Austin Metz. Very good. Allison Anthony has brought Heidi Hartman. Karen Keith has brought Vicki Adams. Welcome. Jessica Carney has brought Gina Shackelford. Jerry Barrientos has brought Linda Wingo. Paul Baumann has brought Debbie Thompson. Andrea Nielsen has brought Gary Bartlett. And Monica Martin has brought Sherry Holdman. Welcome. And now we'd like to introduce our visiting Rotarians from Southside. We have Ben Gorell. Hi, Ben. And from Bixby, we have Stan Pinkham. Hi, Stan. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Visit us again.
Good afternoon, Rotarians and Chuck. Good to see everybody today. Today I am proud to introduce two new members to our club. If you'll please wait until we're done introducing both of them and we'll welcome them together. The first new member, I know both of these new members, and it's a privilege to bring people like this into the club. First new member is sponsored by President Becky. Becky's a vice president at Mabry Bank. She's been a member of our club since 2014. She's a Paul Harris Fellow, a Rotary Foundation benefactor, a Club Foundation Fellow, and District Leadership Academy 2014 grad. She serves as president of our club this year, if you hadn't noticed, and reintroduced Dave Bryant to Rotary. Dave Bryant is a lifelong Tulsan. He graduated from Memorial High School in 1981 and the University of Oklahoma, in 1984. David's a president of the Dave Bryant Agency of Farmers Insurance Group at 21st and Lewis. You've probably seen his sign outside of the 2021 building. He took over the agency in 1984. His dad had established it, and David's received numerous industry awards as nationally recognized for his leadership in the insurance field. He and his wife, Katie, have been married for 31 years. That long?
She was 5.
Yeah. And have 4 children: Will, who's 29, married to Rachel; Luke, who's 27, married to Amanda; Elizabeth, 26, and Saxon, 24. David and Katie met in first grade in Monte Cassino, so they've been lifelong sweethearts. They're parishioners at Holy Family Cathedral. Dave's been an active civic leader and volunteer on boards like Salvation Army, Monte Cassino, and Operation Aware, to name a few. No stranger to Rotary, David was introduced to it at an early age by his grandfather. Some of you probably knew Clyde McMasters, who was part of Men of Note, and his father, who was also a member of this club, as well as past president of the Southeast Rotary Club in Tulsa. In fact, this is sort of a reintroduction. He's been a member here before. He's a Paul Harris Fellow. He's active in numerous committees. He was active on our Celia Clinton Adopt-A-School Committee. Interesting fact about David: he's such an outstanding individual. Out of 15,000 farmers agents nationwide, he was selected as Agent of the Year in 2001, and I believe he qualifies for it almost every year. Second new member I have the privilege of introducing is a close family friend and was sponsored by Scott Philstrup. We all know Scott. He's been a member of our club since 1980. He's a Paul Harris Fellow +6. He's an MSNI ambassador. He's a Club Foundation Fellow, and this year he's serving as president of the Club Foundation. He's an advocate for helping people, and his passion for the success of Rotary is why he continues to help grow our club by bringing people like Andrea Nielsen Bartlett. Andrea Nielsen Bartlett was born into an established business in Tulsa, Nielsen's Exclusive Gifts, which was started by her parents right after World War II. She's worked in the retail business her whole life. She was featured in the Dallas newspaper some years ago when she was 5 years old for being the youngest registered buyer in the Dallas Trade Mart. It was the year she started her first business within her parents' store. She also opened and ran her own store at OSU in the Student Union while she was in college there, and after she graduated for a while, she called it her graduate school. She's got an MBA and a doctorate in real life. After selling that Stillwater store, she sold real estate here in the Tulsa market for a while, but eventually returned to her family's business and has been the proprietor of Nielsen since 1982. Nielsen's is now an online and on-the-phone business enjoying its 74th year in operation. Andrea's parents were both involved in Rotary, which is why she's excited to join our club. She married the boy down the street, Gary Bartlett. They have 2 grown sons and 2 younger daughters. One daughter is about to graduate from OSU. The youngest is a sophomore in high school, and they also have 3 grandchildren, aged 13, 11, and 4. Now, we're supposed to give a fun fact about our guests, and Andrea listed about half a dozen fun things, but she said that in honor of 2020, it's been 100 years since women were allowed to vote in this country. 1920 was when that happened. And some of you may have been there for that, I don't know. Andrea just thought it would be worth mentioning that in 1976, she applied for Rotary membership to the Stillwater Rotary Club, and as you might expect, she was refused because women weren't allowed at that time. So isn't it great that our organization has come to the point where we can have outstanding individuals like Andrea be a part of our club? And Dave, please rise and join me in welcoming these new members.
Welcome, Dave and Andrea. We are very pleased to have you in the club. It is with great sadness that I announce the passing of former Rotarian Larry Stephen Lyon. Larry passed away on December 11th following a courageous battle with Alzheimer's disease. His celebration of life will be held at 1 p.m. Saturday, February 1st at Shout's Funeral Home with a reception to follow. Please keep the Lyons family in your thoughts and prayers. I'd like to thank Greg Keck of Jackie Cooper Imports. He is this week's meeting sponsor. Thank you, Greg, for continuing to support our club. There is one committee meeting following today's program, and that is membership retention in room 233. If you're new to the club and would just like to sit in on any committee meeting, just please know that you're welcome anytime just to drop in. It doesn't mean you have to sign up, but we just want you to know that you're always welcome, and sometimes it's a good way just to sit in and see what that committee is up to and see if it's something that you would like to join in, and that is a very fun and rewarding committee to be involved in. In upcoming programs on February 5th, we have a very special Valentine's program planned for you next Wednesday. So why don't you go ahead and bring your sweetheart? You will be entertained by world-renowned concert pianist Christiana Pegararo, along with a special performance by the Tulsa Opera Madame Butterfly. So I think you will get some good brownie points, so be sure to invite that special someone. And then on February 12th, Dr. Casey Schrum, president of OSU Center of Health Sciences, will be our speaker. Governor Stitt appointed her last year as the Secretary of Science and Innovation for the state of Oklahoma. You will definitely want to be here to hear her. She is quite the powerhouse. And as far as other upcoming programs, Above and Beyond made an announcement last week, and I know that you probably saw this in your email, but be sure, Rob Berry, the committee chairman, asked me to make sure that you saw your email and that if you would like to participate in being one of the sponsors, all the information within the email. We would love to have your participation in that this year. Every year we just look to do more and more, and I love the enthusiasm and energy of that committee this year. That should be a very special day indeed. Also, volunteers are needed for MSNI Workday, and for anyone that's newer, that stands for the Medical Supplies Network, and we actually send medical supplies around the world. It is a very fun and rewarding project to get involved in. I've liked to take my kids with me in the past. You just go for the morning. There's more information on your table, but it's really amazing to see the generosity of our community in sending medical supplies where they're needed most. If you ordered a Service Above Self t-shirt, they are here. So if you want to be labeled as a people of action, as a person of action for Rotary, those t-shirts are here. They're out in the lobby, and so you can pick those up on your way out. Brian Vovard will be at that table, and we will be putting together another order later, but what we would love for you to do is when you're out volunteering for Rotary, if you'll be seen in one of our Rotary shirts, just to let people know that we are the hands on deck, the boots on the ground for our community in more ways than one. Mike Neal is in his 14th year as president and CEO of the Tulsa Regional Chamber. In 2018, the Oklahoma Chamber of Commerce executives inducted Mike into their Hall of Fame in recognition of his 30 years of service to the chamber industry. Tulsa people named Mike the 2011 Tulsan of the Year for his limitless energy, can-do optimism, and tireless efforts toward making Tulsa a better place. This will be a wonderful program today, so sit back, relax, and please help me welcome Rotarian Mike Neal.
Thank you, President Becky. You're way overly kind. Despite multiple requests, I hate to disappoint the audience, and especially Grade and Yoey, I'm not going to be able to give an LSU football report or give Coach O impersonations. I will not say go Tigers, any of that. But thanks so much for the opportunity to let a couple of my good friends and colleagues and I have a moment to share a little chamber story with you. I'll lead off for about 5 minutes, and then I'll introduce two of our most prominent leaders. Let me first say that, as Becky referenced, I've been in this chamber gig, if you will, in 3 states for 30 years. During that tenure, I don't think I've ever seen a community that has had so much going, that has had so much energy, so much momentum, so much positivity, and so much potential as we have in Tulsa, in Northeast Oklahoma today. I think we all had a chance to see that firsthand from this stage just 2 weeks ago with Mayor Bynum. I think there are truly extraordinary things happening, not just in our city, but throughout the 20-county Northeast Oklahoma region that we are so honored to get to work in on a daily basis. I'd like to maybe share just a tidbit or two, if you will, about our chamber, our areas of focus. You'll see a handout at your individual places you may want to quickly reference. But we've been in the chamber, we've been in business for over 115 years. Our mission is to be the principal business-driven leadership organization improving the quality of community life through the development of regional economic prosperity for Northeast Oklahoma. Our focus is not just on the city of Tulsa or Tulsa County. Tulsa and Tulsa County are the hub of it, but really for this entire Northeast Oklahoma region. As our past chairman, I see Jim Dunn, will tell you, we don't do this stuff by ourselves. We don't have the ability, nor the desire to do this by ourselves. This is a team sport. Just like football or basketball or Rotary or anything else, it is a team sport. And I think we're really proud of the work that our board of directors and our staff have done to build some amazing broad partnerships across this region. These partnerships involve many, many cities, many, many counties. Karen Keith can tell you all about that in great detail. Tribal governments, other chambers, economic development organizations, education institutions, higher education institutions, and others. But we all work together for the good of the Northeast Oklahoma region. With the help of these partners, we really have 2 key deliverables, 2 key outcomes that we focus on. Number 1 is creating jobs. Number 2 is filling hotel rooms. And you might say, well, why do you focus on those? Well, it's simple that those 2 key deliverables really help drive the economic prosperity of our community and of our region. You'll see on the next slide a little bit of a dashboard that really shows those 2 main performance measures. We've got this strategic dashboard that hits the key elements of our strategic plan. In reference to that first measure, job creation, it is a function of our Chamber's Economic Development Program that you may or may not be aware of. It's called Tulsa's Future. It is a 20-county regional economic development partnership. It is a public-private partnership that engages some 202 different individual investors support that program. That program over the past 4 years has had its hand in working with companies that have created some 16,500 new jobs and have facilitated almost $2 billion of capital investment in Northeast Oklahoma. And this is really the 3rd phase of this of this program. The program really started back in 2005. If you look back over the history of the program over this for really the past 14 years, our partnership has had their hand in working with companies that have created some 62,249 jobs throughout the 20-county region since its inception. Our second main measure, dealing with hotel rooms, putting heads in beds, if you will, and that's really the function of our regional tourism organization, Visit Tulsa. For the past fiscal year, our regional tourism team had a goal of booking 170,000 room nights. In other words, those room nights would be for concert goers, convention attendees, sports attendees, vacationers, visitors in town visiting your business or visiting Linda and Gary Wingo personally. But this group, the goal of 170,000, they booked some 217,000. So a significant increase of performance above the goal. They also booked some 203 events, including marquee events like NCAA March Madness, Big 12 Wrestling, more recently Ironman, and a number of other things. And those recent events this past year generated an economic impact of some $308 million to our community. Beyond those two main measures, our chamber also works in the governmental affairs, if you will, the advocacy area, advocating on behalf of business, advocating on behalf of our community through what we call the One Voice. You may have seen a Tulsa World story yesterday on this, but through the One Voice process to where we advocate for the good of our region. The second area, the additional area we spend a lot of time in is in community development. That includes our work in diversity, equity, and inclusion. That includes our work in supporting the nation's largest young professionals organization called TYPROS, the Tulsa Young Professionals. We happen to be one of the 5 largest chambers in our country. You hear frequently about our Rotary statistics. Well, most people don't know we happen to be one of the 5 biggest chambers in this country. We've got some 2,200 member businesses, and we represent some 180,000 employees that call Northeast Oklahoma home. We're also fortunate to be a 5-star accredited, the highest level through the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and we also have an accredited economic development organization, an accredited destination marketing organization, and an accredited film commission. And I'm proud to say we're the only chamber in America, or really across the globe, that has an organization that has all these different accreditations. We're also fortunate in that the Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives have named us National Chamber of the Year 3 times in more recent times. One of the things that Jim Morgan, our Senior Vice President of Economic Development, who's with us today, is trying to help us do is to become the very first chamber in America to win a Malcolm Baldrige Quality Award through our work with the Oklahoma Quality Foundation. Believe me, I could talk, and many of you know I could talk for the next couple of years about the work the chamber is doing, but I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop and share a very brief video that highlights some of the activities from this past calendar year. This video debuted at our annual meeting 2 weeks ago, and it features a sleek, athletic gentleman who happens to be our 2019 Chairman, David Stratton, who you'll meet in just a moment.
Running teaches a lot about life. It's a process, and you learn to appreciate the journey. It takes a lot of effort to see progress, but the end result makes it all worth it. It's no secret that we've taken incredible strides, but there's always more to do, and we strive to go the extra mile. And we go that extra mile for our young people, the most vital part of our community. They are our future. So we run toward a future where every child can receive the education they deserve, so that they enter the workforce with confidence, ready to propel the next generation of creativity and innovation, ready to go the extra mile for their families and for our region. Tulsa is a vibrant place, full of life, and it's the people who make it that way. By pushing ourselves to achieve more, we accelerate the kind of growth that expands opportunity and steers us down a path of possibilities and childlike dreams. The more places we can go, the more our region will go places. physical locations, but in new ideas and new ideals, expanding our capacity so that there are no limits to what's possible. So no circumstance should cause us to lose ground on what is important. In everything, we must respect our differences, but realize we're more alike than we think. Because in the end, we have to remember who we're doing all of this for. We must all go the extra mile, striving to create a better Tulsa, to provide a better future, a better way of life. And I really can't imagine a better way to finish the race.
I love the way that video captures our region's momentum, the forward-moving positivity of great things that are happening in our community today. Let me now introduce two good friends, two of our chamber's most impactful volunteer leaders who happen to be our immediate past chairman as of about 2 weeks ago and our new chairman as of about 2 weeks ago. First, David Stratton, the handsome gentleman, the pride of Claremore that you saw running in that video. David served as our chairman in 2019. He's the executive vice president of Tulsa Corporate Banking for BOK Financial Corporation. In that role, he manages their corporate banking group for the Tulsa region. He earned his BA in finance from the University of Oklahoma and earned his MBA from the University of Tulsa. In addition to David's work with the chamber, he also serves on the boards of the Foundation for Tulsa Schools, where he tries to keep one of my former colleagues in line, and the Tulsa Community College Foundation. He and his wife, Cassie, have two lovely young school-age daughters who happened to a year ago steal the show from David during his inauguration at the Cox Business Center. Second, Roger Ramsire, a fellow Rotarian and a Paul Harris Fellow, is our new chamber chair, having been inaugurated just the other day. As many of you know Roger, a great Rotarian. He is the vice president and market leader for Cox Communications operations in Northeast Oklahoma. Prior to Cox, Roger served as a managing director of government and global public affairs for Invista and Koch Industries in Wichita, Kansas, where he also served as vice president and managing officer of a Koch family foundation. Previous to that, he worked for Bank 4 and Nations Bank. One thing we have in common is that we all began our careers in banking. Nations Bank is now Bank of America. He did that for 12 years, and where he served as a corporate spokesman and a senior vice president of corporate marketing. I know neither one of you could ever imagine Roger doing that job. He is also very actively involved in many Tulsa nonprofits and charities. In addition to his work with the chamber, he is a trustee of the Tulsa Community College Foundation, for which he chaired the 2019 Tulsa Community College Vision Dinner. He earned his degree in business from the University of Kansas and an MBA from a university he likes to keep unknown here, and that's the University of Texas at Austin. He and his much better half, his lovely bride Terry, have two children, both of whom are graduates of Oklahoma State University, and a daughter who's a recent graduate of the University of Oklahoma School of Law. Roger and Terry are members of Life Church South Tulsa. Roger and David, would you please join me on stage? And ladies and gentlemen, would you please join me in welcoming David and Roger? David, let's start with you. As you saw yourself on video for the second time now in 2 weeks, what'd you think about that? What, as you reflect back on the past year, what are you probably most proud of from this past year?
Well, the first thing I thought of was I probably got more words in that video than I'll get in between the two of you up here.
Could we hear an amen to that?
Yeah. For any of you all that know all three of us, you know what I'm talking about. I will say the least up here today, for sure. But, you know, I think the thing that stuck out to me last year and some of the things that I'm most proud of that we did really related to a lot of the things that we really tried to focus on. And I would touch on some things separate and apart from what Mike mentioned when you talk about hotel room nights, when you talk about job creation. I do think in the last year we did make a lot of progress, and some of it wasn't really last year specific, it was really over the course of the last several years. And so for those of you that are really familiar with things that the Chamber has consistently been advocates for, the thing that always comes to mind is always around education funding. And I think for here in the last really kind of 2 years, for the first time in a long time, we've seen the state really kind of gain a little bit of momentum in terms of trying to reverse some of the things where we've really have forgotten about how we fund education. And that's not to say, in my opinion, that we're done and we shouldn't be done, and I think that's where we should continue to invest. But the fact that we did see teachers actually get a raise for a couple of years, and we've started to see a little bit more funding there, I think that is a good thing. And I'm convinced that that kind of thing doesn't happen unless groups like the Chamber are continually advocating to our legislature. And so I'm really proud about that. Do I sit here and say we should claim 100% responsibility for that? Of course not. But like I said, I do think that we should be proud of that. I'm also I'm excited about the momentum that we've got in downtown too. And, people ask me, being the banker, and, the question that people always love to ask bankers is, what's going on? What do you see going on in the economy? And for me, because I am just a banker, I'm not real smart, but the one litmus test that you can always tell is like, well, how many cranes are in the air? And the thing about it is, as a banker, I wish we always had more cranes in the air, right, in Tulsa, and there was more of that going on. But the place where you see it most is in downtown Tulsa. And there are projects going on everywhere, and there's just continual capital expansion going on, and that's exciting. And I'm convinced your downtown area should be the epicenter of what goes on within a community, and there should be energy, and it should be vibrant, and it should be walkable, and it should be a place where people want to go, and it should not be a place where we just show up at work and maybe occasionally go see a concert. It should really be a place where we go and our kids want to be there and we feel good about that. And I'm super excited about the momentum that we've got in downtown and just the investments that are continually being made there. And then the last couple of things I would just really quickly mention is I am excited. I made it a priority last year. Roger, not to steal any of his thunder, and I know he was a continuation for him, and mine was a continuation of the year before, was around direct flights. And so, living in Tulsa, and for any of you that have jobs where you travel a lot, you understand and you appreciate more than anybody when you've got to connect through Dallas and Chicago anytime you go anywhere, it feels like. And so I think having more direct flights, that's not just so we can get home at 8 o'clock instead of 10 o'clock. That really is a huge economic driver for our region, and the more of those that we can get, the better. And so when we have site selectors and others that are looking at Tulsa as a community to potentially relocate, that's a huge thing that they pay attention to. And so we made a few announcements last year in terms of some new flights, and we are bullish that we will see more. And again, I don't give the Chamber all the credit for that. That is, to Mike's earlier point, that's a team sport, and that's a lot of different people within the community, at the airport, and others that have really pushed on that issue. And I do think we're making progress, and we'll continue to make progress. And then finally, the last thing I would just briefly touch on, I made it a big focus of mine last year to really focus on diversity, not only just for the Chamber, but within the community. It's not lost on some of you may be looking at me like I'm a relatively young Chamber chair. That wasn't ever lost on me. It's probably one of the younger ones that we've had in quite some time. And I'd like to think that I'm at least aware enough to know that diversity is a huge deal in a lot of different ways. And I won't go through all the different reasons why, but if you just want to put on your economic development hat only, people want to move to communities, young people want to move to communities and to cities that do this well, where they can see opportunities for everybody, and that we continually create opportunities and go to work for organizations where there's opportunities for everyone, regardless of where they come from and what their background is or what they look like or what they do on the weekends. That's where people want to work. That's where young people want to work, and I really am excited about the momentum that the Chamber has made and really pushing that agenda. We've done a great job in terms of adding more diversity to our board and really highlighting that and acknowledging that we've got work to do. You know, I think that's one of the best things that we can do is say, you know what, we've done some good things there, but we can do better. And so I'm proud of those are just kind of 4 things that I would just focus on in addition to what Mike said.
David, what words of advice, counsel, or wisdom did you share with your most recent successor in Roger?
To tell you no.
Other than that, other than that.
No, so my view, you know, chamber chairs, maybe all, or everybody that's done this role, you know, we all approach it maybe a little bit different ways. But I really viewed the chamber role of really kind of 2 things. And I don't know if I said this directly to Roger, but hopefully maybe even demonstrate it. But one, I view the role as really being kind of a fiduciary for the entire business community. And so while things may come up that maybe David Stratton has a really strong opinion on, that shouldn't necessarily be what the chamber should do. And we should really be listening to the broader business community about what we should be doing and listening. And a big part of that, honestly, for me, that I tried to do well and I try to do continually is listening to people that think differently than me. And so while I may have a strong opinion about something that we should do, I want to go seek out somebody that views that very differently from me and really make sure that we understand where that may be coming from, where they're coming from, so that you've got a different vantage point. And I'm not sure that we always do that as well as what we could, whether it be in business or in life or with family or whatever the case may be. And so, but I think it's hugely important when you've got an organization the size of the chamber in terms of listening to all the different constituents and business interests and everything that comes with the chamber, community partners, and really just making sure that we understand the broader issue versus just, hey, this is what I think we should do. Probably get to the wrong answer if that's the way you're going to approach things.
David, thank you. Roger, each year, in addition to the chamber strategic plan that I showed on the screen, and it's evident in their handouts, each chair, as David referenced, chooses a handful of key personal priorities that they'd like the board and staff to help drive in the coming year. How did you go about identifying what those personal priorities of you as chair would be for 2020?
Mike, the first thing that I did was number 1, and Mike asked him about what advice. The first thing I did is watch this person like a hawk. David is wise beyond his years of experience and is a great person from whom to learn. That helped formulate a basis, but I did something else about 12 months ago very quietly. I sought out and made a long list of business, civic, and government leaders with whom I wanted to interact, ask questions, find out what is Tulsa doing well, what could we do better, how can we make forward progress so that all the businesses represented in this room can enhance their profitability and their prosperity and the quality of life that we all enjoy. In total, I started smiling and dialing and asking people from all over Tulsa, would you go to breakfast with me? Would you have coffee? Would you go to lunch? And I gained valuable insights. In total, I counted up more than 75 such meetings with several of you in this room and many others. And not only did I gain insights, I gained 10 pounds doing that as well. But it was a terrific opportunity to understand and gain an appreciation for what Tulsa is wanting to be into the future. And with that, I crystallized kind of a theme. I happen to be in the technology business as opposed now to the banking business. So I categorized a theme that I could see the chamber crystallizing, a theme of connectivity. I'm in the business of connecting homes, people, businesses, hospitals, governments, and the like. And I figured if we came up with a small handful of priorities under that theme of connectivity, that we could have some fun and hopefully make some forward progress.
So in regard to connectivity, in addition to how Cox does that, from a business community perspective, why do you see that as being important?
So connecting people is incredibly important, because if we're operating independently, not aligned, we're not going to make that forward progress. We see that here in Rotary, that when we all work together, we can achieve some pretty important goals. So what I tried to do, Mike, was come up with a theme, and I really narrowed it down to about 5 things. A few of you who were at the Chamber's annual meeting 2 weeks ago heard some of these things. But building on what David said, tried to narrow it down to 5 areas of connectivity, the first of which being connecting all of Tulsa through diversity, equity, and inclusion, connecting those who know us with those who don't through branding and promoting of tourism to try to get visitors and out-of-town money here. The third one is connecting Tulsa with the rest of the world, what David was talking about with direct flights and the incredible work done there. Fourthly, connecting small business with the resources that small businesses need to enhance their success and their prosperity. Those of us who work for large companies have lawyers and accountants and workers' comp specialists and marketing people that we can go to as leaders and ask questions, but small businesses don't always have that expertise. And the Chamber's got a terrific resource and a venue to get their small business connection, and we've asked that team to remarket, repackage lunch and learns that those who are in small businesses that might have an HR question or a legal question or what do I do about workers' comp, to have those lunch and learns as part of their membership, to have that. And then the final area, building again on David's, is connecting the students of today with the workforce of tomorrow. In other words, education. That's not only K through 12, it is technical training, and it is TCC, and it is the 4-year institutions that we need to make sure we are doing a much better job so that all of us who have the privilege to employ people can have a motivated and thriving workforce.
Roger, thank you. I'll add one comment. You referenced small businesses, and I think many chambers of commerce in this country are perceived as being big business organizations, quite often because their chairman or their volunteer leaders represent the larger businesses. I think one thing important to note about Tulsa, as well as many chambers in this country, but certainly Tulsa, is 90% of our members. 90% of those 2,200 business members are small businesses. And they have a very active role through the Small Business Connection program that Linda Wingo, I see, is a past chairman and longtime board member, and others in this room heavily involved in. Roger, unlike David, who is from this area, you're not native to this region or really even to the state. So how did your outside or being somewhat of a newcomer help shape your role and your thinking as you were preparing to enter this very time-consuming role in 2020?
My wife and I moved here, now we're going into our 5th year in Tulsa, and it affords a great, unique opportunity to have not been a blue blood, because you come in and you observe things that you may have seen at other communities in which you have lived, and that has simply been invaluable. One observation in that regard has been the fact, and I was fortunate in previous roles, whether it was in banking or in energy industry from which I came, to have participated in civic organizations. And I recall shortly before moving here being in a meeting of CEOs of very large companies, and they were all lamenting, and I kid you not, this really happened, if we could only be like Tulsa. So here's the funny thing. Fast forward that a little while. I moved here almost 5 years ago. I'm in a meeting with CEOs of a similar nature, and I kid you not, I heard almost the same exact words. If we in Tulsa could only be like Austin or Nashville or Memphis or Portland or wherever. And while I suppose perceiving that the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence keeps us getting up early and motivated to try to do better and continue to excel, one of my goals this year is to make sure that Tulsa is like Tulsa.
Right. I love that. And Roger, as we all know, you're in the communications business. And so I think one of our challenges for a number of years has been, and my family and I witnessed this 14 years ago when we moved here from Nashville, and that is how important is telling the story of Tulsa and to those who may not know us today.
You know, you heard me say one of those 5 areas of focus being connecting those who know us, that's all of you, with those who do not know us. And while Tulsa is attracting a whole bunch of neat visitors more than ever before because we have great things like the Gathering Place that has now had more than 3 million visitors since its opening about 18 months ago. Just simply unbelievable. And you think about the BOK Center, about the tournaments that Visit Tulsa and other things have brought in. We can't just build it and expect people to come. So one of my businesses is the television business, and I sit home and I watch commercials during football games. Come visit us in Branson. Come to Bentonville and see our marvelous Crystal Bridges, and it is good. I've even seen commercials, visit Wichita. That's how they say it on the commercial. And yet, going down to the chamber, unfortunately, as many are aware, the marketing funds that will ultimately result from the Tourism Improvement District that was passed a couple years ago have been tied up with some delays and some litigation. Hopefully that will get resolved at some point. But in the meantime, we need not be absent. So one of the exciting things, figuring you got a chairman who's a banker, now you got a chairman who's a communications guy, was able to do a little horse trading, and effective 10 days ago, the chamber staff under the leadership of Jim Morgan produced a great 30-second spot to finally, after several years of being absent, get Tulsa on. Now, you're not going to see this commercial in Tulsa because we're the chamber not wasting money doing that here. But today, this commercial is running in Nebraska, throughout the entire state of Kansas, as well as Arkansas. And I think, Miguel, if we could cue it up and have people take a look. Very, very fun. And congrats to Jim Morgan of the Chamber, as well as to Retrospect Productions of beautiful Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, that produced that national quality commercial. And again, that is running today. And as a guy who happens to believe that television advertising does result in specific behaviors, it is my hope that that will result in you seeing a lot more out-of-state license plates during spring break coming up in the parking lot at the Gathering Place and in our hotels and our restaurants and our shops where people are spending money from out of town.
Thanks, Roger. David, we've talked a lot about positivity, a lot of good things happening, a lot of good momentum. But what do you see as the biggest challenge that we as a community, we as a region, we as a business community, whatever, are faced with today?
So, one person's opinion. The way I see it is really kind of two things, and I think they're related. And whereas before I talked about the momentum that we're making from an education perspective, I do think that is a challenge that we have. And so I know everyone in this room has read about the challenges, the TPS from a budget perspective. We've got to get education right, not just in Tulsa, but in this state and in this country. And I'm convinced if we can do it better, sell it better, talk about it in a different light, start to change some of the rhetoric and the momentum and how we approach it and how we create opportunities for kids. And it's probably not your kids, because my guess is a lot of your kids have great opportunities, but it's really a lot of other kids that maybe don't get those opportunities. But if we can start to change that, I'm convinced that starts to then help us with what I think is our other issue, which is a workforce issue in Tulsa. And so, you know, the chamber, we've had some studies done and we've paid for this, but we've got, 19,000, we lack 19,000 four-year degree employees in this city. And so if you just think about that for a minute, I mean, that's huge. And, you know, as a banker, you know, I get the opportunity to meet with a lot of companies, some of you in the room, and, you know, when I always ask, what are your problems, what issues are you facing, like, across the board, always the first issue, the thing that I hear is just, we can't find the talent, we can't find the workforce that we need. And those two are very much related. I'm convinced that if we can, you know, invest in our education system, and if we can educate folks and get them degrees and then create opportunities and create higher ed opportunities and then create four-year degrees here in Tulsa, people will stay here, and that will attract more employers that will want to come here. And so those two things, I think, continually pop out to all of us, that just something that if it was easy, we would have figured it out last week, and it's just hard work that we're continuing to work on, and it won't be solved this year or next year. I mean, it's like a 5, 10, 15-year path and really challenge that we have kind of in front of us as a community.
Thanks, David. We have 5 minutes remaining. Final question to both of you gentlemen, and that is, what does Tulsa look like 10 years from now?
That is a fantastic question, Mike. I'm hoping that Tulsa today, for the people who might have seen this week's edition of Rolling Stone magazine, there may not be a lot of Rolling Stone readers in this audience.
Oh, there's a bunch.
But a few who saw it on social media.
See John Stava.
And there you go, Mr. Stava. And with that having been published a headline this week that did ironically say Tulsa may be the next Austin, they were referring to the thriving cultural and performing arts scene that we have in this great community. And with that headline, my hope is we will continue to excel in the what our good Thai pros, Tulsa Young Professionals, call cool factor, that would attract people so that when David's young girls, beautiful young daughters get a little older, that they not only choose Tulsa, but they convince their friends to move to Tulsa and help fuel some of those 19,000 degreed individuals that we are short. Beyond that, we've all got to innovate, and that creates opportunities for entrepreneurs. The Chamber is supportive of the 36 Degrees North, which is a marvelous new leader in Devin Laney, who we hope will be a future Rotarian. We have the Forge and other business incubators, and that's going to be critical with entrepreneurs because technology and connecting people and things is going to be a huge priority for us. There are some futurists, and with apologies to our incredible sponsor today from Jackie Cooper Imports, from whom I just bought a car, there are futurists who say that a child born in 2020 will never have a driver's license. Sorry, Greg. They'll still need cars. They'll just be Uber. There are others who say that the best-selling product 5 years from now hasn't even been invented yet. Now, what that spells for me, if those futurists are right, it spells opportunity for all of us to evolve and create whatever that next product is right here in Tulsa.
Roger, I think you talk about Rolling Stone. I think Hannibal Johnson. I think we need Hannibal on the cover of Rolling Stone next year. We're going to work toward that. David, your thought?
Roger and I didn't plan, and so I don't. And maybe we think too much alike in some ways. And so I agree with everything that Roger said. Just to not be redundant, I do think maybe answered a little bit different way. Instead of what will it look like, because I'm not a futurist, Roger. But what do I hope it looks like? And to just piggyback, I do hope it is a place where, and I said this last year, I do hope it is a place where this is a place where my girls want to be and where all of our kids want to be. And the only way that that happens is if we continue to invest in the community and really try to create opportunities for young people. And again, all of that comes through great education opportunities and being a place where people want to raise their families. And if you can get that right, then the rest kind of starts to fall into place. And it just can't be for my family. It's got to be for everyone's family, and it's got to be equal for everybody. And we've got to figure that out as a community, and so that it doesn't become, we can't continue to exacerbate the problems we have around haves and have-nots. And I think if we can do that, I'm hopeful Tulsa will be a great place.
Fellow Rotarians, will you join me in thanking Roger and David for the extreme time commitment and leadership they're providing to our chamber and our community. Thank you, gentlemen.
Roger, David, Mike, thank you very much for this inspiring presentation, and how exciting just to see what is going on in our community. Doesn't it just make you feel proud? And Jim, I love the commercial. Roger, you guys did a great job on that. I'm so excited for our neighboring states to see it because, you know, for so long it was almost an embarrassment whenever I was younger and we'd move to another state or something, say I'm from Oklahoma. And now I'm not even from Tulsa, and I say I'm from Tulsa. I just love to invite people here. There's so many things to do here. And what a great time to live in Tulsa. Exciting things happening. And I can tell you where we will be in 10 years, and that is this great Rotary Club of Tulsa, 104 years old, will still be here serving and giving our community just like we have been for 104 years. So thank you for all that you guys do to support our community and our chamber, and I know that will continue. As always, we have a book that we present to our partner school in education, Celia Clinton, and today is Groundhog's Day Off. I know that's apropos for the month and everything coming up, but I don't think anybody at the chamber is taking a day off anytime soon. You guys sound really, really busy. Rotarians, you are people of action. You are agents of change. Now go change the world.